And welcome to part 4 of my XY restoration. You would have seen these bits in the last episode. I'm slowly cutting off the excess metal and cleaning those up now. And this is a section that we did in part 3. So I've cut away all the pieces hanging out from there, and that's starting to take shape. The whole panel still needs a really good clean up, but the welding is done in that section. Apart from this little piece, which I've just made out of a few bits of scrap I had lying around. So this little section here was all rusted out, so I've cut that away, and we're going to put this little section in. And that little section is done and covered in primer to protect it. It's pretty much that for that section. So next up, going back to the front end here, and I need to repair this section. Now that's where the battery tray sits. Looks as if someone's done a bit of a dodgy repair in the past there. And if you look underneath it, there's another piece under there as well. So it's probably been played with a couple of times previously. Now I was just going to cut this section out and make something up and put it in. But again, it's paper thin metal. So I've decided to go with a whole replacement section, which I've got here, which comes from musclecardgt.com. This is the first replacement panel I've used from these guys, so you'll see what happens. But it looks as if it's going to sit in there pretty well. I'll probably just take that whole section out and put that in, save messing around too much. That section is completely taken out now, and cleaned up all the remains of the spot welds around the edges there, so it's just a case of putting the new one in. So I've now finished welding this in. And you can see the tops of some of the spot welds there, and then along the bottom there as well. Might be a bit difficult to see where I've done it. And then on the back here. So I've basically just spot welded it back and front in as many spots as I possibly can. And then I've gone over it with some metal cover primer. So obviously all this black stuff has to come off. I'll sand that off at some stage, but otherwise that section has sat in there really well. It's just gone straight in. So yeah, high praise for those guys. So I'm just cleaning up one of the front quarter panels. This one still had factory paint on it, and a fair bit of rust. So I was hoping I wouldn't have to do too much welding on this. As you can see, it's actually a pretty good panel. I've just gone around with my sander, just taken all the paint and all the rust off. So I'm going to go right over this with the primer in a second. This bit we had to cut out, that was fairly rusty, and you can see the section underneath is pitted as well, so that'll have to be repaired. But the rest of the panel is really, really good. The only problem, of course, is that this is an XW panel, not an XY panel. So the only real difference there is the headlight. So I may try to swap this one to somebody and get a proper XY panel, save me cutting that section away. Or I might keep it. We'll see how we go. So I'm starting to do the repair on this little section now. You'll probably have to fix this up first, but I'm just making up the patch. So you cut this one out. You see it's almost the right size, not quite. It's got a little curl along here where the panel drops away down there. So I've just bent it slightly on the end there. How did I do that? If I had an English wheel, it would be fairly straightforward. Unfortunately, I don't have one. So what I did was quite simply stuck it in this vise, tightened it up, and put my dolly there, and essentially just hammered all the way along that edge with the dolly behind it. And it gives us that nice little bend there that we need all the way along. So I've just put a couple of tacks onto that piece. Probably just let it cool down now. Not too worried about getting that finished today or anything. The main thing I want to focus on today is floor pans on this car. I did start grinding away at that a while ago. As you can see, someone's done a dodgy repair back in the day, and the floor pan crosses over onto the firewall. It's overlapped, and then there's some kind of strange patch there holding that together. So I'm going to have to take all of that off and see what can be done. Now, underneath the car, you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. That's your firewall, and it's your floor pan. They're supposed to be welded together, not overlapped like that. Someone's just done a lazy repair on it, and it looks like it goes all the way across the car, unfortunately. And they've got various rust holes all through it now, so that's all going to have to be replaced. Okay, so I've got some new floor pans from a place called Westside Country, so I'm giving all of the different patch repair shops a go, see which one I like the best. Let's see how this goes in. It actually appears to sit in there pretty well. What I'll do, just take this texter and just mark along here the highest possible point that we can go when we're cutting. What we don't want to do is go past that line. Adding metal back to your vehicle is a whole lot more difficult than taking some off. So let's go across the top here. Just a bit of a rough line. And along the back there. So there's our line all the way along here, along there, and around the back. So we know never to go higher than that. So we can go underneath and we're fine. If we go higher than that, then we're going to have gaps. So I've just started clearing out this floor pan. I've noticed that someone in the past has done a dodgy repair. What they've done is they've welded this plate over the top of this hole without actually cutting it to size, so it's just been sitting over the top, and it looks like there's one underneath as well. So I'm going to have to take that off, and that'll be another repair that we'll have to do. But yeah, I'm finding quite a few dodgy, lazy repairs that someone's done in the past here, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a drama to fix. Just take a bit of time, that's all. So after taking that all the way back to the edge here, there appears to be a big hole under it, and then there's another piece here which also reveals a couple of holes. So it doesn't look like they were caused by rust, so I don't know what they were doing there. I guess go back far enough, these cars weren't worth a lot. Maybe it was in a paddock or something like that, who knows what it was used for. Anyway, this section here, I'm going to have to take this bottom piece off, and I'm going to have to make a patch for this. Over here, that's all the floor pan, so it'll just mean that whole area will be cut off and replaced. So that's the floor pan we've pulled out of the car. It was pretty difficult to get out. It had a lot of spot welds on it, probably a lot more than what you'd need. And it's fairly out of shape, being that it's been doubled over and things have been welded on top of it. But it's still giving us a fairly good indication of where we need to put this new one. So that's the new one, it's just sitting in there now. Just pull that out. Yeah, you'll see the damage from the last person. And yeah, they just welded a patch straight over the top of that and that. So I'll have to fix that. Otherwise, it doesn't look too bad. We've still got a fair bit of space where our line's drawn there, as you can see. So we'll just have to play around with this a little bit and get it to the exact shape that we want, and then weld it in. So this morning my new welders arrived, so I'm putting the little Mini MIG 100 into the cupboard there. That'll be my spare welder, or I probably won't use it unless I really have to. Even though it's a cheap welder, it's actually pretty good. If you're starting out, I can probably recommend this as a cheap welder to learn on. Anyway, I've got something totally different here. I have the SIG Weld 185, which is MIG, TIG and stick welding. So I've got this welder going now. It's got quite a lot of different settings and fittings, so I did have to change a few things on it. I was using a different size wire, and then the tip was a different size as to how it was set up. So anyway, I've gone and set it up for just for gasless MIG to start with, because that's what I'm used to, and I will get myself a gas supply soon and start learning that, and then I guess we'll try TIG welding as well. I've got all the pieces for it now. Just had a bit of a practice on a scrap piece of metal, and it's definitely quite a powerful welder. I can feel that, much more powerful than the last one I had. You just turn the heat down a bit and the feed rate down a bit, and it seems to be okay. So I'm going to give it a go on this XW panel and see if we can finish off this little patch we started the other day. So that patch is in now, ground back and primed. So that's starting to look pretty good. Now other than that, I've also been back in at this floor pan, and I thought we were just about right to put it in. And of course, I came across a little bit of rust, so I started checking further, and we've got a giant hole in there. So I'll have to repair that first before we go any further with the floor pan. So now that I've cleaned all the rust out of that area, you can see that there was a substantial amount of metal that had to be cut away there, and it also goes through to the other side. So I've got to make a patch up to go in there. See on the other side there, I may just replace this whole piece, or I may just cut something to size and put it in there. We'll see how we go. So that inner patch I've welded in now. There's still a bit of cleaning up to do, but on the outside, that's actually the inner sill there, and I need to put another patch over the top to level off with this. And then the floor pan goes in, and of course we've got to fix this other side. So there's quite a bit to do. That's sitting in there pretty well, and I've taken all the rust out now, so that's good. And that will be the end of this video. I was hoping to finish one of these floor pans off, but there's been quite a lot of other work to do, as you've seen. But we'll carry on. We'll keep working at it, and eventually we'll get this car all sorted and on the road.